Okay, so of course there was never going to be any doubt that we would be watching Mindhunter on Netflix because it is the latest David Fincher project and he has not done anything since Gone Girl, which was our favourite film of that year pretty much. We are absolutely in love with Fincher. Everything he does is just wow.
He's had a few troubled years with projects coming and going, but finally he has a new project and my goodness, we are mind blown over this one.
Yeah, because this is actually pretty amazing. So this series is set in the 1970s and follows our main character Holden Ford, played by Jonathan Groff, who works for the FBI's serial crime unit, and basically the series is about getting inside the minds of the most kind of manic, crazy kind of killers that people just cannot understand. And over the course of the series, we actually start to track down some of these killers and rapists and whatnot. But the series is really about just trying to understand people who do not think on the same level as the average person. And from the get-go, I think that premise just completely had me hooked.
Yeah, 100%. I think we're looking at the rise of the serial killer that we know today.
Yeah, that's what we're looking at.
Killers without a clear motive, and so I think it's just such an intriguing sort of premise for a show, because obviously so many shows have delved in, to detectives and serial killers and stuff, but like actually looking at when it all began in the 70s and kind of exploiting that and like having a look at it, I'm really intrigued.
It's definitely a weird kind of premiere because it works more on the idea of setting up intrigue through dialogue and complexity of ideas as opposed to action. Of course, this show has kind of a cold open where it shows our main character Holden in action working as kind of like a negotiator, trying to de-escalate a very, very intense situation. But throughout the rest of this first episode, we kind of get an insight into his life and who he is and what drives him to want to do this. Because this is not something at the time that the FBI is actively exploring. They're like, if people are committing a crime, they have an obvious reason to do it that we can work out. And for him, he's like, no, I don't think people work like that. I want to find out why and really start breaking it down and understand what it is. So it's definitely a series at the moment, at this stage, just from the first episode, that is working more on the basis of intrigue than action.
And I think for me, the most interesting thing moving forward with this show as well is the fact that like we have a show where it's the serial killers that are kind of almost the intellectuals or like this unknown property in a way. And our lead characters don't have all the information. They're the ones that are like literally wanting to go back to re-educate themselves or find out new information to try and figure out what is going on with the world.
It kind of in a way feels like a deconstruction of all the stuff we kind of see on TV like NCIS and SVU and that. It really is kind of breaking down all those kind of action, plotty, pace-based kind of series and saying, no, what's actually lying underneath the surface? And I think it's just working for me. Now, obviously this series is being produced by David Fincher and the first, second, 9th and 10th episode are all directed by him, so there's more of him to go. But just on this first episode alone, this guy just cannot ever seem to put a foot wrong. David Fincher is the guy responsible for Alien 3, Seven, The Game, Fight Club, Benjamin Button, Zodiac. He just knows his way around this type of stuff. He's got a really cool, slick type of direction that just feels so precise, and yet it's so intimate and so real. There's points in this that kind of just blew me away. Like there's a nightclub, like a club scene where he was so committed to having the volume at like a realistic level that he decided to subtitle the scene rather than turn the volume down. And it's just things like that that make him such an intricately detailed director and such a thrill to watch.
And I think over the years and hearing the stories about Fincher and knowing how detailed he is in both his process and when he comes to directing, especially with these actors as well, I think this is just a show that you really need to kind of sit down, pay attention, and really, really watch, because you'll pick up on so much. And watch with earphones as well, because if you don't watch with earphones, you're gonna miss out on some glorious sound design here. That's both a construction of the artist involved plus Fincher, because he is just so delicate and precise.
And if there's one thing that I think Fincher is really good at nailing, it's atmosphere, and this show has a lot of it. Like, not only does it look beautiful because of the way it's shot, just because it's got that genuine Fincher style, it's got that Social Network look that he's kind of had since, I guess he's had that same look since kind of Zodiac, pretty much. But even things here, like the music is never at any point kind of overpowering, but it kind of sits under scenes and simmer, and the kind of darkness of the whole series is never like horror orientated or oppressive, but it just kind of is unnerving the entire time because of the subject matter that this series is dealing with.
He's mixing genres here, and I mean, like, he absolutely perfectly mixed genres in Zodiac, and once again, he's doing it here. And for him to be able to go back and explore, this mystery sort of crime detective thriller sort of atmosphere. It's so good because he's already trained and he's already done it so many times before now. He's just getting better and better. And I have to say as well, I mean, I know when I'm watching good writing because I get this weird feeling. I'm just like, there's something about this feels off. It's so much better than everything else I'm watching right now, and I can't quite click with it. But here we've got a show which has really, really intelligent writing.
Insane.
And not just like really, really intellectual, but of a time, an era, a place, a social and a political thinking as well. And so like when you throw all that into this big bowl, you just get this beautiful script with some incredible dialogue that just seems almost unnatural because it is so natural.
So with that all kind of out of the way, you're going to be watching the series no matter what. I don't want to hear anything about I'm not watching this series because we're going to jump into some spoilers, so you have been warned if you haven't seen the first episode. We're just going to talk about some stuff in a bit more detail. So what I really loved about the way this first episode was structured was the fact that, as I've said, there really was kind of no action. You kind of get that in most series you kind of have this cold open where you see something happen in action and then it kind of powers through and we kind of get a bit more of a pace thing where it's like, I gotta track down a killer related to that. Whereas this entire episode was entirely about getting inside Holden's kind of head. It's entirely focused on Holden's character to the point that Holt McCallany's character, Bill Tetch, doesn't even pop up until like the last like 20 minutes pretty much. So like I just thought it was a really, really patiently done thing to make us really understand kind of every element of his character and all these different facets of his life. So then when we see him out like working in the field after that, we understand the way he kind of works, and that way we come to have expectations of how a scene is going to play out. And that's when you get that type of tension where you're like, oh no, I know you're going to do that, please don't do that, please don't do that, or this needs to be done at this time. And I really like that when I'm watching a character, kind of knowing how they operate so that I'm kind of feeling a bit more kind of tension as to the way they're going to behave.
Plus with setting each character up with dialogue as well, it allows for the show to kind of, I don't know, introduce their characters in a really interesting way. Like the LA police officer near the end of the episode, like he got a lot of time dedicated to him because he was simply human and he could not understand what was happening. And I absolutely frothed that scene so hard. Seeing him be like, you know, kind of be this dickhead in the, you know, police office and stuff and being like, he's just, you know, like heckling them while they're doing their PowerPoint and then all of a sudden going and joining them.
PowerPoint in the 70s.
Yeah. A presentation, but then after that he follows them up and, you know, he finds them in the bar and he discusses what's going on in their city at the moment. He just can't wrap his head around it. And I loved that because we just got to see characters in a really raw, natural state.
And I feel like there's going to be some really, really interesting evolutions with as Holden kind of gets more and more inside the heads of these characters. Are we going to end up with kind of like a Hannibal type situation where he starts to kind of thinking like them? We're going to get some kind of twist down the road where we kind of see him getting into some really kind of messed up stuff. I would not be surprised if things go down that route because at the moment he's so kind of like I don't know, like hot-headed at the moment that I would not be surprised if things start to go down that path.
Both hot-headed and kind of detached from society in many ways.
Yeah.
As well. I mean, we got introduced to his apartment and he's alone, everything's bare and it's bleak, and then of course he's got this weird sort of you know, relationship with his girlfriend already, which is, you know, very intellectual, but of course it's a strange sort of relationship, you know. So I think the possibility for him to, you know, end up being this type of, you know, weird mind, it could happen.
And what I really like about the way Fincher handles series like this is just how unflinching he is. Like if something needs to be told, he'll just do it. Like when he's going like, cool, we're going to have a bit of dialogue during a sex scene, and he's just completely unflinching about that. Like the actors just got the actors completely naked. There's kind of no boundaries. Same as the fact that like this first episode, obviously this is more in the writing, but it goes straight for like the Charles Manson type thing, and everyone's responding to that. They're like, and he's like, it just needs to be shown. And I think we're going to get some really interesting stuff as the series kind of goes along from this point, getting to see just what a director can do when they're not shying away from subject matter and they're just kind of tackling it head on. So I'm really excited to see more of that. And while I do absolutely love the fact that from the first episode we're managing to get a rift between our two central kind of characters, these partners, I do feel like that kind of escalated a little bit quickly. Now obviously Bill's character was added just to the kind of back end of the episode, so it was going to be rushed no matter what, but I do feel like that was just something that's not really a big deal, but it kind of came on really quickly. That being said, their kind of argument in the car was exceptional, and kind of all of the dialogue between them, their chemistry is really, really fantastic because they could not kind of be like they both work in a similar field, but they just feel so opposite, even though we kind of know nothing about Bill's character already. You just get the fact that they're going to clash. And you know that it's really unflinching when from the first scene, some guy blows his head off with a shotgun. I mean, that's just from the get-go, like, oh, hold up, we're in for it. And I think the thing is that this is just the type of show that rightfully so just kind of gets inside your head. There was that many kind of quotes and moments that I've just kind of been stuck with, particularly the quote about facing the back of an elevator and how it freaks everyone out. I was thinking about that kind of like all day. I was like, that really is quite profound stuff that's actually got me thinking. And when a show gets us thinking, that is what we really, really enjoy. Because as much as kind of sit back and unengaged, entertaining kind of stuff where you just kind of let it wash over you is fine. Stuff like this that can really absorb you and get you thinking and kind of educate you at the same time, which is what I feel like the show is doing. It's teaching me stuff that I would not learn any other way currently. That really is like what we want from TV at this stage.
Oh, without a
so
doubt.
Mindhunter really is just doing everything right from this first episode, and we're keen to see where it goes from here.
100%. I mean, when it talks about, I think 2 or 3 times this episode they mentioned about opening up dialogues. I think that's what this show is going to do. Not just open up dialogues with the characters, but with audience members and amongst audience members, and that's just damn exciting. So we have loved Mindhunter so far, and we cannot wait to watch the rest of the show. What are you thinking? Let us know in the comment section down below. Of course, only spoilers for the first episode, and anything past that, and you will just be...
And if you want to see our full season 1 review, it will be up as soon as we can get it up, so you can subscribe to our YouTube channel down there somewhere.
And don't forget to check us out on Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, and Twitter, all at Breaking Banter.
And at Patreon, because we have one of those now.